Okay, let's go. Welcome everybody to this new webinar where we will talk about how to deliver application faster with Kiuwan Life Cycle. My name is Sebastián Revuelta. I'm Customer Success Manager at Kiuwan. It means that I'm trying to help the customers in the use of Kiuwans, trying to speed up the use of the platform. I'm a software engineer. I am obsessed with data. I love software quality and security. And I'm a chess player in my free time, but to be honest, I'm not very good, but I love the chess game. The agenda of today is short introduction to Kiuwan and the Kiuwan Life Cycle module. What is the difference between baseline analysis and delivery analysis? Pros and cons between partial delivery or complete delivery. Explanation of the concept of audit in Kiuwan. Adding checkpoints to your audits. Integrate delivery analysis in your pipeline and in your IT. And finally, we will do a demo with all these points. We will see in Eclipse, in Jenkins, in GitLab, in different tools, how Kiuwan can talk with other systems. Of course, there will be a time for question and answer. So what is Kiuwan? Let me start with this graph that maybe many of you know. It is related to the cost of fixing defects. And you know that it's very, very expensive to repair a defect in production. So it's so much better to detect the problem as soon as possible in the early stages of the life cycle of an application. It means that if we have some controls in the design stage or in the implementation stage or even in the testing stage, it will be so much cheaper than detecting the problems in production. Just to show you some funny, this image illustrates what I am saying. Don't worry that nobody will die. But just to be funny a little bit, it is similar to fix a bug in production. So it's very risky and you need to be very careful with the change that you are doing in production. It's so much better to detect the problem as soon as possible. In this case, it has a happy end, but not always has a happy end. See this picture here. So it shows that you need to verify, you need to check all the deployment that you are doing. Okay. So what Kiuwan is proposing, but not only Kiuwan, just the software industry, is the shift left approach that maybe many of you has listened to. It means that we need to move to the left all the controls, all the checks that we can do to the software. So move to the early stages of the life cycle, every control, every analysis that we want to run to verify the quality and security of our software. With Kiuwan, we can run different controls, different analysis. We can run static application security testing with the code security module. We can run software composition analysis to verify the open source component with the insight module. And we can govern all this analysis from the governance module, where we will have a full vision of all our applications. And we will see today in detail the lifecycle module. That is the module to verify if each delivery that our development is doing or provider is doing, to verify if it has the proper level of security and to accept or reject according to some checkpoints. Just a few words about static application security testing and software composition analysis. They are complementary analysis because with the first one, with the SaaS approach, we are analyzing the proprietary code of a company. And with the software composition analysis, we are analyzing the open source components. It means the third-party libraries that you are using in your development. So they can live together and they are a complementary approach to detect the full vulnerabilities in your software. The Kiuwan Code Security SaaS is working with the majority of the standards in the market. We are working with security standards as OWASP, as MISRA, as PCI, or NIST, or CWE, and is able to analyze more than 30 languages. As you can see there, it's able to analyze modern languages as Go, as we saw yesterday, but also Python, Scala, TypeScript, but also all languages as COBOL, RPG, SAP, and of course, the most popular languages as Java, JavaScript, C++, .NET, PHP, and so on. If you are talking about the analysis of the open source component, it's very important to say that we need to verify the vulnerabilities that are in this open source component, but not only, we need to verify the obsolescence of these components in order to check if we are using very old components, components out of date, or it's important to check the license of this component. Imagine that you are using a component with a copyright or a copyleft, then we have a problem because we need to comply with the proper license of each open source component we are using. Okay, so once that we have seen the different type of analysis that you can run with Kiuwan, let me explain you the difference between a baseline analysis and a delivery analysis. When you are developing your application, you have different releases, different versions, the version 1, the version 2, the version 3, version 3.2, and so on. This is the version that you can tag in your master line, in your master branch, in your repository. So when you want to know what is the exact health of your application, what is the exact status of your application, you can run a baseline analysis in order to take a picture of your application and to understand exactly how is the security and quality of your software. The main advantage of a baseline analysis is that you can compare two different versions. You can see if you are improving or if you are reducing the number of defects, if the tendency is positive or negative, how many defects have you removed from the previous version, if the evolution is correct or not, is what you were expecting or not. So you can see all these things with baseline analysis. But in a normal day, you receive a change request from business to develop a specific functionality, to change a specific feature in your application. And then you have the opportunity, you have the option to run a delivery analysis. And Kiuwan will tell you, hey, I can accept your delivery or I can reject your delivery, according to some checkpoints, to some controls that we can previously configure in the tool. We will see later some examples. But imagine that you are developing an application and you have changed 3 files, those one in blue and this one in red. And in the red one, you have introduced this sentence. This is a SQL statement. It is a query to the database. And you are using two parameters that come from the user. It is a user input. So Kiuwan will tell you that Kiuwan will not accept this delivery because it is a SQL injection. It is a real problem, a real security problem, a real serious problem. So you need to correct this problem. You need to fix that in order to continue with your pipeline, in order to have the green line from Kiuwan. Because you know that if a malicious user can introduce some payload here, some bad values that can affect our database, can produce a SQL injection and can maybe delete some information in the database, can obtain some confidential information. So it's very important to verify, to check, to control each input that comes from user. If we fix this problem, maybe with a prepared statement, that is a solution well known for SQL injection in Java, then Kiuwan will analyze again and will tell you, hey, now it's okay. You can continue, you have the green light, you can continue with your pipeline, and if you wish, you can promote this delivery to baseline. So the life of a development team is, as you can see here, they can get some red, some rejects, or they can get some green, some acceptance, in order to continue with the pipeline and we continue with the development of the application. If we are talking about deliveries analysis, we will see that there are partial analysis and complete analysis. And it depends on the size of what we are analyzing. If we are analyzing just a small part of the application, as in the example 3 files, then we consider that as a partial analysis. But if we are analyzing the full application again, we call it complete delivery analysis. What are the difference between a partial analysis and a complete analysis? As I said before, partial analysis is we are analyzing just a few files with the last changes that as developer we have done. But in the complete analysis, we are analyzing the full application again. By consequence, the volume of the application, we are analyzing here less source code and here more source code. But take care with this information here, the context. In a partial analysis, we don't have the whole context of the application, so we can lose some security flows because we don't have the full information of the application. Imagine the SQL injection that I have explained before. Imagine that it starts with maybe a form in a web application where a user can introduce some values, and then the information, the data is traveling along the application and it ends in a database. So we need to have the full information to detect this type of problem, this type of security problems. So if we are talking about a full analysis, a complete analysis, the accuracy is so much better because we have the full context of the application. Said that, we recommend to use partial analysis maybe in a mainframe environment where you can analyze just some few files, the last with changes, because they should have the full context in the same file. But in other languages as Java.NET or PHP, JavaScript, it's important to analyze the full application again if you want to have all the vulnerabilities detected by Kiuwan. Okay. So what is the requirements to have an acceptance or a reject from Kiuwan? It depends on the checkpoints that we configure. It's the same as an exam. In an exam, you have some questions. Here we have an audit, and an audit has checkpoints. An example of questions or an example of checkpoints you can see here. I don't want very high vulnerabilities. So we configure a checkpoint in order to indicate that we don't want any very high vulnerabilities. So if we find an SQL injection or a cross-site encrypted or a command injection or a security problem that is very high, then Kiuwan will not accept the delivery and we need to repair the problem first. Any other examples? I don't want a specific security problem. For example, if we are following the OWASP top 10 or other standards, PCI or MISRA, or I don't want open source component with well-known and critical vulnerabilities. I remember some years ago, maybe 2 years ago, there was a big problem with struts, in concrete in the version 2. Someone discovered some critical vulnerabilities in this open source component, in this component called struts version 2. And then some companies suffered some attacks and they lose confidential information. Or another example is I don't want open source component out of date, for instance. You can configure all the checkpoints that you need. Then you can integrate this delivery analysis in your pipeline. If we are following what is the travel that a source code is doing, we are developers, we are programming some changes in our IDE, in Eclipse or Visual Studio or IntelliJ, just the IDE that we are using. Then we commit or we push the changes in a repository. And then a continuous integration tool as Jenkins or GitLab or Azure DevOps or Visual Studio can get the source code and then run a delivery analysis invoking Kiuwan. Kiuwan will show the results, and if you wish, as a developer, you can download the defects that belong to the audit that we have run. So we can know exactly where is the problem, and if Kiuwan has rejected the delivery, we can fix the ID again. A normal pipeline that you can define in your continuous integration tool is similar to this. We can, as first step, build our application. What it means that you can compile your application. You can run some unit tests. If you are developing in Java, for instance, then JUnit tests. Then you can run a Kiuwan complete delivery analysis in order to get the full analysis again and to get the acceptance or fail if Kiuwan detects some security problems here. If everything is fine, then we can promote to baseline and finally deploy our application in the next environment. If we want to run a Kiuwan partial delivery analysis, then we need to tell Kiuwan what are the files with changes. So if we have modified maybe 2, 3, 4 files, we need to indicate Kiuwan what are those files. We will see now how we can indicate these changes. To indicate what are the files that we have modified, when you open the Kiuwan local analyzer, you can indicate in the include patterns what are the files that you have changed. In this example, I have here a RPG file, then I can indicate that this file has suffered a change and I want to analyze only this file. So I will select partial delivery analysis because I'm not analyzing the full application again, just one single file. I can indicate here more files. If I am using the command line interface that is very common in our customers, you can indicate that in the next way. As you know, you can indicate with -s the path where the source code is, with -n the name of the application, then with -as you can indicate that it is a partial delivery, and in the field include.patterns you will add, separate by comma, all the files with changes. Then Kiuwan will analyze only these files. You have other option if you are using the command line interface that is indicated with -a, a property file, and you can add here more fields. For instance, you can include here the include.patterns with all the files that you want to analyze. Maybe this last option is cleaner and you have the opportunity to indicate here the list of the files. But remember that you need to tell Kiuwan what are the files with changes. Okay. Here I want to show you some example of pipeline that later we will see in a demonstration. The first image is from GitLab. It is a continuous integration. And then I have defined the first step, my build of my application. I am compiling my application with Maven. Then I am running some Kiuwan complete delivery analysis. And if everything is fine, as it is in this case, then I will promote this delivery to baseline. And finally, I will deploy my application in a Tomcat server. So as you can see, everything is automated. But if I want to stop, because here Kiuwan detects some security problems, then I can stop and I will not continue with the pipeline. If you are using Jenkins, here you have another example. In this case, I'm running a Kiuwan partial delivery. And as you can see here, there are two steps that I have included to get the files with the last changes in an automatic way. But it depends on the repository that you are using. In my case, I am using Git, so there is a command that the name is git diff, and then you can have the file with changes with this command, git diff, and with a small script that I prepared, call it process diff. I will read the output of this process and then prepare a property file that Kiuwan can understand. If you have curiosity, you can see the implementation here. We have this free source code that you can get and modify just to check. Don't worry about the URL, because at the end of the presentation you will have all these presentations, so you can check this URL. Okay, so said that, let's go to Kiuwan.com and show all these things working together. First of all, I will move to Kiuwan.com with my credentials. And I will go to audit management in order to create a new audit with 2 checkpoints. I will call it audit webinar 23 April, for instance. My new audit will indicate here what is the score expected. I will like 100. And here I will add 2 checkpoints. The first checkpoint is related to very high vulnerabilities in my source code. So I will choose this one, threshold for maximum number of defects, this one here. I will indicate here my description, no very high problems in my source code. It can be also the description. You can assign a weight, if it is mandatory or not. And here I will indicate that the priority is very high. So it means that it will detect very high defects. And if it happens, then it will stop the pipeline. And here I will indicate the maximum threshold, and I will set the value null, because I don't want any defect. Just if Kiuwan detects only one, it will stop the pipeline. Okay, so this is my first checkpoint that will review my source code, and I will add a new checkpoint here, that it will look for open source components with forbidden versions. As I have told you before, the strat2 I don't want to use in my development because I know that it is vulnerable, so I don't want to use the strat core version 2.1 and all the versions before the version 2.1 I don't want to use in my development, so no forbidden open source components, because I know that they are really vulnerable and I don't want to find them in my architecture. I will indicate here also the weight. It's mandatory, and then that's okay. So I have here my 2 checkpoints. Now I will publish this audit with my 2 checkpoints. Now I can use it in my delivery analysis. Let me go to application management to assign to my chest application. I will indicate that I want to use this new audit. Okay, and now that I have done the change, I will check if I done it properly. Yes. So now I can run a Kiuwan delivery analysis of this application. In order to do that, I will log in with my credentials in the Kiuwan Local Analyzer. It is fetching the application. Now I will select my application and I will indicate that it is a complete delivery because I will analyze the full application again. I will indicate the change request. Let me change request webinar 23, branch name development, delivery webinar 23. Okay, I can continue. And I want to run code security code analysis, what is the SAT analysis, and I would like to run insight analysis. That is the analysis of the open source component that I am using in this application, in this chest application. While it is running, let me show you this application. That is the chess game developed by Eduardo Bronat and Sebastián Revuelta. I introduce my credentials and then I can play in this chess game. Not very clever. Just the first move is the pawn, then the queen, the bishop. It's the bishop, so it's not very clever, as you can see. Okay. It is analyzing, you know that you can check always here the log about what it's doing. Now it's analyzing the Java technology. It is a chess game developed in Java. It has also JavaScript, some GSP pages, some HTML code, also some TypeScript. And I am using some open source component as I think Log4Java, well, different open source components. Okay. Now it's executing metrics analysis. And we will review in Kiuwan.com what are the results of this delivery. Now it's analyzing the JavaScript technology, as you can see here. And we will see if I can go on in my pipeline, if everything is fine, or if I have some issues, some critical issues in my development. And if I have some important issues, some important defects, I will try to fix just now and run a new analysis. Okay, now it's analyzing the GSP technology. Okay. You can see here that it is a complete delivery analysis. And if we move to Kiuwan.com and we refresh here, we will find the results in some seconds. Okay. In the meantime, I will show you how I have configured my pipeline in a continuous integration tool as GitLab or Jenkins. Imagine that you are using GitLab. Then if I move to the continuous integration and continuous deployment section, I can see here that I have my pipeline defined with 4 steps. If I click here, I can see exact what are these 4 steps. The first step is to build application with Maven. Then I run a Kiuwan complete delivery analysis. Then, if everything is fine, I will promote this analysis to baseline. And finally, I will deploy my application in a Tomcat server. If I click here, I can see exactly the detail about what is Kiuwan executing. Okay, now the analysis has finished, so we can check the results. But let me finish this part. It is the log in the GitLab server, and you can see that the first line, let me come back to the first line here, is the command line interface where we are indicating the name of my application, what is the source path, and some labels, and what is the type of analysis. In this case, it is a complete delivery analysis. Okay. And here I have another example. It is Jenkins. It is maybe the most used continuous integration tool. And I have here my favorite application, the chess one. But if you see here, there are some differences because here I'm running a Kiuwan partial delivery analysis. So it means that I am indicating Kiuwan what are the files with changes. And I'm using here a git diff process, and then I am creating a property file that Kiuwan is using as input. Okay. If you have curiosity, you can check the implementation in the GitHub account that we have. Okay, said that, let's go to review this analysis. We'll refresh. And if you can see here, we have the change request webinar 23, and Kiuwan is telling us that it's not accepting my delivery. We can see here the details, and the problem is that this checkpoint is okay, it's green, so I'm not using forbidden open source component, but I have very high problems in my source code. In fact, I have 3 defects, 3 security defects in my source code. The first 2 are in the GSP page. I have some cross-site scripting, and I have here in the authentication.java, I have an SQL injection. If I want to see the line, I can see that it is in the line 49. So I need to fix that first in order to continue with my pipeline. You have always the option to continue with your pipeline regardless the result of Kiuwan. So even if Kiuwan has found some critical defects, you have always the option to continue with your pipeline and deploy your application in production. We don't close, we can say we don't close the door, just we can open the door if you wish. But it's important to know that you have critical vulnerabilities in your source code. So said that, let's go to, in this case, my ID, that is Eclipse. I have here my chess application. And I will move to this icon in order to download the defects that Kiuwan is telling me that are critical. I will choose the audit. I will choose here my last change request, that is this one here, change request webinar 23 from the 6:28 p.m. I will click OK, and I'm seeing here just the 3 defects that are critical in my development. So now, as a developer, I can click here and I will check that I am executing a query, and the query is here. it is a SQL injection because we are using some parameters that come from the user. The username and password are getting here. And as you can see, it is a get parameter function. So we are gathering this information from a user. And if the user is a hacker, then I will have a serious problem in my application. I will try to fix, but it is not very difficult because I have the solution here. It's just enough if I comment this. Okay, now I have the solution for my SQL injection. I'm using the prepare statement, and we are using the parameters from the user, but before we are checking that they have no strange values in the input. So now I can save this file and I can run again a delivery analysis in order to check if now everything is fine. I will indicate here that is channel request webinar 23, but the label will be different. I will indicate maybe second analysis. We can continue. We will analyze again. In the meantime, I will show you this SQL injection in my application. If we come back to my DR test, I have here the username and the password, but if I introduce this value here, for instance, that is a strange username, but is what we call the payload. The payload is the input that the hacker is using to attack your application. Then we will use just the password EE in order to verify that regardless the password, we are accessing to the tool. As you can see here, we are accessing to the tool, regardless the password. So what is happening? I will show you here. What is happening is that I'm executing this query here, but if I add this value, it will concat the two strings, and the first one is true, username is equal to my user, and then with our OR expression, I will add here another expression, but that is correct from a syntax point of view. So even if it is false, then the result, if I do true or false, then the result is true. So I will access to the application, regardless the power. If I write here maybe BB or CC, it will access to the application again. So just it is a good practice to verify each input that came from user. Okay. So now you can test in your forms this type of expression that are very used mainly in the just in application, just to learn about how to develop in a secure way. You can find a lot of SQL injection as example as I have shown you today. Okay, so we are running our second delivery analysis. As you can see here, a complete delivery analysis. We will execute later a partial delivery analysis, maybe in other technology. Now is executing the GSP application code, some SQL rules, as I have some SQL syntax in my source code. If you want to use my chess application, you can do that because it is in my GitHub account. And if you want to add more intelligence to my chess game, please do that, because now it's not very clever. So you can do that. Feel free to download the source code and improve that. And if you want to repair the Kiuwan defect that are in my application, you can do that, of course. Okay, so now the SAST analysis has finished, and now it's running the open source component analysis that we have seen before, that it is okay. Now it has finished, so now we can move to Kiuwan.com and check the results. We go to Kiuwan.com, we refresh. Okay, now I have here my second analysis, and now I can see that everything is fine. No very high problems in my source code, and no forbidden open source components. So the last checkpoint, we already know that it was okay. Now with the repair that I have done in the source code, I have fixed the 3 problems at the same time. I have fixed the SQL injection, but also the cross-site scripting. So now I can be happy with my application, and I can continue with a pipeline and deploy my application in production, that there will not be any problem, at least from a security point of view. Then the application is not very clever, so maybe it is another problem. Okay, so said that, I would like to finish with a partial delivery analysis. In that case, what I will choose is a RPG application. Here I have my RPG application, and I will indicate that I would like to run a partial delivery analysis. Again, I will indicate here my change request, development branch, and delivery level. We can say third analysis. Okay, so we will indicate here what are the files with changes. In this case, imagine that I have changed that file, so I will indicate here to Kiuwan that I would like to analyze in this partial delivery analysis only this file. Okay, you know that you can use the include patterns. If you are using the command line, there is a field called include.patterns, and you can introduce the list of files just there. And if you want to automate all the things, you need to develop a small script that gather the information from the repository with the last changes and prepare a property file that can be the input for Kiuwan. Okay, so now I'm ready. I can go and we'll check here that I am analyzing only just one file in order to verify that everything is clear. And now I can run my first partial delivery analysis with Kiuwan. It's just the same idea. I will have a OK or a reject, depending on the checkpoints. But what is important to say is that I'm analyzing here just only this file, not the full application again. So for some environment as mainframe, as COBOL application or RPG application, it is an interesting idea, because you don't need to lose time, to waste time analyzing all the mainframe again. Just it is enough if you analyze just the last changes. So now the analysis has finished, so we can go to Kiuwan.com lifecycle module and check the results. I have here my RPG analysis with only one file, and everything is okay. So the only checkpoints for this audit was no new defects, and I'm not introducing any new defect in this file. Okay, so that's all what I want to show you today. I hope it can be useful for you. please feel free to ask me whatever you need. Me or my colleagues will be happy to answer. There is a questions here. It's only applied for DevOps, or for DevOps, DevSecOps need other tools. So Kiuwan is useful for DevOps environments, DevSecOps environments, because Kiuwan can analyze the security. So we add the sec prefix in the DevOps, but also Kiuwan can analyze the quality. So we can just analyze with Kiuwan in other DevOps environments. So just for both. Can I, as a developer, to check on real time the code mistakes we have in the ID? Yes, you can. You have the Kiuwan analyzer mode in the ID, within the ID, and you can check your defects in real time within the ID. It's important to say that it is available for Eclipse, but yeah, you can do that. If I move to my Eclipse, I move here, you have the option to analyze the application from here. Run Kiuwan analyzers, and you will see the defects in a new window that is called local defects, and you can check there all in real time, just the last defects that you are introducing in your application.
Sebas.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Just one question. While this analysis is doing, somebody asked about the promotion mechanism. Can you show a promotion of a delivery to a new baseline?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I will choose here my chess application, and imagine that I'm happy with this second analysis because everything is fine. Then I have the option to promote to baseline this delivery. It means that I will create a new baseline, a new version of my application. I can indicate here if I want just maybe version 9.1, and I can promote to baseline. And it means that now, if I move to code security, and I will move to my chess application, it is still calculated some metrics because I have created a new baseline, a new baseline version. I will choose here a window from 1st November until now. Okay. And here you can see that there is a version 9.1. That is the one that I have created just now. And I have created from a delivery a new baseline. And if I move to the timeline, I can see all the baseline version that I have for this application. It is a strange evolution of this application because the chess game has suffered a lot of changes. So it is not a very common evolution for a software application. But yeah, you have the opportunity to create from a delivery a baseline. And it's important to say that you can do that automatically because you can invoke a promotion to baseline from command line, and then you can create from your pipelines new baseline from your deliveries. Yeah, there is another question here. How can we control mute and add exceptions in the rule set? So it means that if you want to mute a defect, you can do that from the vulnerability page. Imagine that you are reviewing, I don't know, maybe this defect here, and you see that it is a cross-site request forgery, but you think that it is a false positive, or maybe you want to add exception here. You can mute this defect. As you can see, it's very easy. Just click in mute. You can add here the reason, false positive, or just other it is an exception. Then what Kiuwan is doing just now is just mute this defect, and it is offering the opportunity to recalculate all the indicators as the security rating, for instance. And in the next analysis, Kiuwan will remember that you have muted this defect and will take it into account. Even if you move the source code, even if you move the line, you can see that the problem now is in the line 33. Imagine that you introduce some comments, some new methods. Then in the next analysis, it is the line 37, for instance. Then Kiuwan will remember that you have muted this line and will not show defect in this line in the next analysis. You have also the opportunity to create your models. In model management, you can create just the set of rules that you want. You can introduce in your models all the rules that you want. Kiuwan has more than 4,000 rules, so you can select here the language that you want. Imagine that you are developing, I don't know, maybe in Go, and you want to add to your model this rule, this rule, this rule, and then you add these rules to your model, and you publish, and you can use in your analysis. So it's very, very easy to activate, to modify, to edit your rules. Okay, so I think it's okay. I need to say thank you very much for your time, for your attention, and we hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much.